Hello and welcome to Hexed Encountered. I'm Joe. In this video, we will be doing our second play video on the game SPQR from the Great Battles of History. This was Volume 2, designed by Richard Berg and Mark Herman, and it is from GMT Games. So in the original video, or the first video I should say, I did the Battle of Lautile from the Barbarians module, and I'm going to do the same here, but I'm going to use the simple Great Battles of History rules, which is right here. So this is a scaled down version. It's basically like 15 pages of rules as opposed to 40 or so in the full rule book. And it gives you a totally different set of player aids. Here's our terrain effects chart, fortification chart, and then you've got your missile range and results table, your shock results table, and the weapon system DRM matrix, which takes the place of the clash of swords and shields from the main game. So the shock system is completely redone, and the missile system is also redone, but not as completely. Then you have your die roll summary chart and your unit capabilities chart, which is useful for determining, well, it gives you a nice little kind of capsulized version of what makes each unit special, what they can do in terms of both abilities and liabilities. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. There are a lot of the game rules have changed. They've been scaled down, simplified. It's still not what I would call a simple game. It's probably more mid-level, low mid-level maybe. But compared to the full boat, it is certainly a much more streamlined system. So I'm going to get into that here in a moment, but I just wanted to do this brief introduction to explain what we're doing, and I'll talk as much as I can while trying to keep things relatively short. I'll talk about the differences as they come up between the full system and the simple system. First thing I'd like to cover here is the difference in the simple Great Battles of History, which is included in the Barbarian module playbook here. So that comes with the base game. So you have your simple Great Battles of History version here, because it's not in the simple Great Battles of History playbook itself. So you can see the playing time. It estimates about an hour. Balance is in favor of the Samnites for obvious reasons if you look at the tactical situation here. Then you have the formation chart. So this is something that's different in simple as opposed to full. In full, you didn't have formations. You had the ability of the commanders, the leaders, to activate units either using their own initiative or doing a line command. There are no line commands and there are no individual activations in this one. You get a formation, and then you have a commander, and you can see Caius Pontius here, who is the commander of the Samnites. He can activate. He's the overall commander, so he has a lot of power in general. But he can activate. His formation is the Legio Lentiata, heavy cavalry, which is the unit that he's actually stacked with here. And then you see the /3 here. That's how many seizure opportunities he can make. So momentum and trumping are gone, and in their place is seizing initiative, basically, or seizing the turn. And the way that works is you have a certain number of attempts per commander, and you can see Pontius has 3, Herennius has 2, and Quintus Aulus has 3. So they're allowed to do that number of seizure attempts throughout the course of the game. So what they recommend doing is, so if Pontius has 3, you get a 3 counter that we would use for hits or cohesion hits, and you put this underneath him. So like Aulus also has 3, so you could put this underneath him or whatever, and then as he uses them, you mark it down. So that 3 would become a 2, and then it become a 1, and then he's out. So and you can't seize it back. So once you seize it, it's that's it. There's no trumping. So it's, you see one side seizes it, and then the other side cannot seize it back. They just simply get skipped, and then they get the next activation. Okay, so you can see the formations that they work with. So Herennius can command the Eastern Force Foot or Eastern Force Cavalry. So he's over here and he's in command of this group, which makes sense. So it's when it says Eastern Force Foot or Eastern Force Cavalry, he can activate one or the other. Now this works in a I go you go kind of situation, as opposed to in the base game. How did my counters get all messed up? In the base game, you have initiatives that determine which leaders activate. In this one, you have turns, basically. Like it's my turn, then it's your turn. So in this particular scenario, the Romans go first and their units are out of command. And I'll talk about that in a moment. But basically what will happen is the Romans will go, they'll have one leader who can activate whoever they want formation-wise. So if it's Aulus, he can command the van. Tribune Antonius can command the Hastati and Principes. Tribune Cassius, the Triarii. Sociorum Claudius can do the cohorts, and our Equitus Falco can do the rear. All right, so he commands the front. Claudius commands the back, or Falco rather commands the back, along with Claudius, who can command specific units. So you could say, okay, I'm going to activate Aulus first, and I'm going to try to move some of these units up front, because they're going to have to adjust to the fact that they're about to be attacked, most likely, you would think, by one or the other, or both of the, probably mostly would be these guys right here, the Western force. They're going to be attacked. So you have in command and out of command. Now, by rule here in the special rules, it says the Roman player goes first. There is no die roll. However, the Roman units activated on the first turn are automatically out of command. So what does out of command mean? First, let's talk about how a unit is determined to be in or out of command. To be in command, a unit must be within the formation commander's command range, okay, which is on the counter, and it's the bottom left number. So for Aulus, it's a 5. So if you're within 5 of him, you can be in command. It also has to be a unit that commander can command, of course. And then also, or in addition to that, if you're not adjacent or you're out of the range of that. So let's say that this guy here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's say he's here and he's therefore within 5, because you don't count his hex, but you count his. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's probably off camera. But let's say he's 5 away. If this guy were adjacent to him and 6 away, he would still be in command, because he's adjacent to a unit that's in command. So you get kind of a chaining effect there. Now, what are the effects of being out of command? Out of command may move and fight. An in command can move and fight without special restrictions. An out of command unit cannot move adjacent to an enemy unit. So you can't move up into an area where you would have to do shock combat. And if it's already adjacent to an enemy unit, it has to leave that hex. So that's the basic stuff. There's also command restrictions, like they can't engage the enemy directly. They're limited in their ability to participate in offensive actions, like initiating shock attacks, as I just said. Obviously, if it's out of command, it cannot serve as a link, or a link in the chain to keep units in command, if they rely on that chain of command by being, within 5, and then others are outside of that range, or whatever the number may be. For Aulus, it's 5. All right, so since the Romans go first and their units are out of command, we need to figure out what exactly they can do. So they cannot move adjacent to an enemy unit, but they can still move. So basically what we can do here is, let's say we activate Aulus, right? So one of the things that we might want to do is change the facing of some of our units so that we can kind of put together some kind of defensive line to handle these guys here. So if we were to say change the facing of these V-lights here, we can do this. And then we don't necessarily have to move them, but we do want to at least change their facing, right? So we can do the same here. We can turn them, which changes their facing, and that counts as a movement point. So if we changed his facing and say moved him here, and again, I'm not going overly much into like the strategy. This is mostly just an example of how simple works versus full. So let's say he moves there, and then we move him up here to try and start to make a line. Then we can do the same with him. We'll turn him and move him 1, 2, 3. So now we have a bit of a line here along the bottom edge of the ridge. Now we could move up. That would cost an additional movement point. Now we do have a terrain chart here, and you can see like the terrain's always, there's nothing in here that's not clear. So we're mostly dealing with we're basically just dealing with elevations. So this is level 3, and this would be level 4, and that's level 5. So if we were to go up 1 level, okay, so we have a V-light here. You find the type of unit that they are. So they're light infantry, right? So you got your light infantry right here, and if he's going up 1 level, it costs 1 extra. And then you've got, you know, all these modifiers and notes and things like that. You can take hits by going up. You can see here in some games, Alexander and Caesar Gaul, you can see that they take hits when they cross minor rivers and major rivers as well for Alexander. And the P would indicate prohibited to movement. So everything is contained here on the terrain effects chart, which is, you know, different than what it is in the base game. So basically, we could move up there. I'm going to keep it simple and leave them down, you know, down on the base level, even though that probably means they're in. In fact, what we should do is just maybe move them back off the crest line, like so. Only because now they're not going to get an advantage from coming and attacking from higher ground. They do have javelin. They're javelin equipped, this light infantry, our V-lights here, but they can't use it because the range of the javelin is only 1. And again, you can see that on here in our missile range and results table. So you have the javelin right here, which you can see the range in hexes is a 1. So you need to roll a 6. And it's the same as lower, implements a hit. You get 1 hit basically. So instead of cohesion, you just have hits. And then ultimately you will end up having unit route. There's no rallying in this game. So in the simple game, they route and then they don't recover from route. You can't rally from it. So you can see the ranges go out to 5 for archers. For catapults, it goes to 7. For ballistas, it also, you know, your siege engines, basically your artillery, goes to 7. But everything else, archers are 5. If they're class C, archers of class A and B are 4. Then you have your slingers that have 2, and then javelin and elephant screens are 1. Darts are 2 as well. You can also look here on your card, and if you look at light infantry, you've got your special abilities. It says all but barbarian infantry, skirmishers, and starred skirmishers may use column movement. So that's their only real special ability. So they're going to stay there. Then we're going to take, because he can activate the van, so he can activate more than just our V-lights here. So we're going to activate our cavalry as well. And what we'll do with them is we're going to swing them this way. So we're going to have them turn around. And their movement is an 8. So they can go 1. Well, that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to put them here. And we're going to put this one here. And what we'll do with this side is we're going to have, we'll leave Aulus here alone for the moment. We're going to turn the facing of this unit this way. Maybe we'll put that one there. And again, I'm not really counting up the totals and stuff. These guys were all right here, so they're in range. Aulus himself will stay with this unit. We'll put him here, facing in that direction. Then we've got that one there, and then we can send these guys back here. And I'm going to move, we'll move 1 here, even though it's down off the crest line by, it's like right off the crest line. So that's kind of a little bit of a dicey area. And we'll put the other one right here. Okay, so these are the guys that basically he can command directly. And so that would be the end of the Roman turn, because the Hastati here are under the command of Antonius. So now we would switch over and go to the Samnites, and then they would get to decide which one of their commanders will activate. Pontius has direct command of the heavy cavalry, and they are facing this way, because you're always facing, just like in the base game, you're facing a vertex. So they can move in certain directions but they have to be facing the vertex. So maybe we won't activate him and we'll activate Statius instead. Now what we could also do is we could say, well, the other thing I neglected to do, I just remembered this, is if a unit's out of command, you're supposed to flip it over like that. But I'm not going to do that, because if you look, right, this is our furthest unit from our commander, and he's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So he's still within command range. So that's why we moved him out here. That's as far as he can be from Aulus and still remain in command. So he's in command. The out of command in the first turn is just a function of the special rule for the scenario. All right. So let's have Statius activate, because he commands the Western Force Foot. So he's in command of all of these guys. Now we could attempt, if we wanted to, you could attempt to seize it if you had if we wanted to use one of his seize attempts, but we won't. So let's just activate our units here under Statius. Now these guys are in command, so they're able to move up and attack. Now, what we can do is we have our light infantry here, and we also have our legionary infantry as well. Now they'll be moving downhill and going down a level here on our terrain chart. Doesn't do anything except you could take a hit if you're a phalanx, heavy infantry, or cohort. Cohort class C. So we don't have any of those, but we do have legionaries and light infantry for our foot units here. So they can move downhill basically with no effect. They have no effect of moving downhill. So if we wanted to say, let's have these two guys attack our commander here. So they would go 1, 2, 3, 4, and they can do, because they're missile equipped, they can do a hit and run attack. Let's move in to explain, excuse me, how a hit and run attack works. So basically he would stop right here. So the theory is he's going to end up in this hex right here, but he's going to basically dart in here, throw his javelins, and then dart back. And this will complete his movement. You can't dart in, attack, and then move back. Now also, because our V-Lights here are also equipped with javelins, they would be able to do counterfire, basically, which is called something else, and I'm drawing a blank on that right now. So to resolve this attack, we go to our missile attack results table. So what we have here is a javelin equipped unit. The range is 1, because he's going to dart in, make his attack, and then dart back. So his range is a 1, which is what it needs to be. Note B, only light infantry, etc. type units may fire, and only by using hit and run tactics, or as reaction fire, that's what it's called, reaction fire, against hit and run tactics by javelin armed units. So we're going to have 2 fires here. We're going to have their fire, and then we're going to have their fire. All right, so the way we resolve this, die roll modifiers here, you get a +2 hit and run tactics by a foot javelin unit. And I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. So basically it's real simple, hence the name simple. Take our die, and I'm going to roll this off camera because I zoomed in. So we need basically an 8 or less for them to inflict a hit with their javelin. So they get a hit. Now let's do the counterfire. Now they get a 6 because they're not doing a hit and run. They're doing reaction fire. And they got a 0, which in this game is a 0. So both sides inflict 1 hit. So that's really simple, as it was basically in the other game, where you just take a hit marker, which in the other game would be a cohesion hit. And here you have, so you can put them on top or underneath. Let's just put it on top there, and I'll put it on top here, because I know that Aurelius has a 3 for his, not for hits, because leaders don't get hits in that way. Now, if they had rolled a 0, they being the Samnites, then we would have had a possible leader casualty again, as we saw in the other video. So obviously, if you didn't watch the other video, you might want to do that, because I am going to be referencing things from the other video as we do this. But that indicates, if you rolled a 0, that indicates that you may have the possibility of our leader being eliminated. So you have to roll a die for that. But that did not happen, so we don't have to worry about that. So having completed that movement, now we're going to take our other, and I think it's possible that I may be stretching the rules here, and I'm going to explain what the thinking is. So in theory, these guys, it says you have to start your move two hexes away, which would be here. Obviously, he's not 2 hexes away, 1, 2, although he is 2 hexes away from that unit. So maybe the better way to do it, since he was already facing that way, would be to have him go here. Now he can attack this guy or this guy. So let's just say he's going to attack this guy, right? So same rule. Now he is not equipped with a javelin, because he is a cavalry unit. So he's going to attack the Roman cavalry, and again, he's going to get an 8. But let's see if we have a terrain effect for this, since it's he's on a higher elevation. It's a -1 if the target is at a lower elevation. So he gets a +2 and then a -1. For Roman cavalry, there is no die roll modifier. So they're going to go down here and attack this unit, just to keep it simple and keep it in the shot. There is another cavalry unit just right there as well, but that's off shot. I already have this set up this way. So he's going to attack there. We'll roll our die. It's a 3. So he gets a hit. They are not equipped for reaction fire. They are, but he never comes close enough for this unit to throw at him, because he would have to be in this hex right here, and he's not. So they get a 1 hit. So they get 1 hit. Put 1 hit. I'll just stick it on top. They've already moved anyway, so that completes these 2, and now I can do other things with these other guys. So let's say we wanted our legionaries now, and let me reset my shot here. All right, so for our example of shock combat here, we're going to take our legionaries that are right here, and we're going to move them to attack this cavalry. So I'm going to show a couple of things here that are involved with this. So first of all, we have a legion, and it's moving downhill. We have legion right here, and our terrain is going down 1 level, and so it's good. It's a 0. So it's just 1 movement point. So he's going to move down. He's going to actually, this is no extra movement points. That's just 1. And then this will also be just 1. And we'll put him right here. And we're going to say that he's going to attack that cavalry unit. Now we also have this guy up here that we can also send down. And we can even send down this guy as well, because we have Statius here, who is our active leader. So I could do that. Now these 2 have already been used, so they're marked as done. Now if we look at this guy here, he could go 1, 2, 3, and be able to attack that unit. And then we also have this cavalry unit here as well. So let's have this guy go 1, 2, 3, 4, and stop there. And then this guy will go 1, 2, 3. Okay, now he will attack here, he will attack here, and he will attack here. So we're going to cover a couple different things here real quick, because I don't want the video to go too long. And again, this is more of a play example than a playthrough. Just wanted to kind of show how simple Great Battles of History work. And then down the road, I plan on doing some videos where I'll play out one of these battles. Some of these battles are really big and would take a really long time to play. So I might have to pick and choose a little bit. But I also want to look at some of the other games in the series as well. So having said all that, let's get down to business here. So what we're going to do here is we have a unit here that's a cavalry. And there is a mechanic in this game called retreat before shock. Basically, it's really simple. You compare the, excuse me, the movement factor for the defender, and in this case, that's an 8. It's that black bordered 8 right there. Their movement factor is a 5. Basically, that means this guy's faster than this guy. If the defender's movement allowance, MA, is higher than the attacker's, he can retreat. Now, he has to retreat away from the attacker, and he has to use half his movement allowance. So in this case, he could say, all right, we're going to skedaddle here, and we're going to go 1. Now, he's cavalry, so again, we have to check here. So Roman cavalry is right here, and we're going down a level, and it's still a 0. Still a 0, so that's good. So we're going to go, that's 1, and he's got to go 3 more because that would be half of his movement allowance. So he can go 2, 3, 4, and he'll stop right there. And they maintain their facing. Usually movement requires you to turn to the vertex in the direction that you're moving. In this case, you don't. They are expected to move up, so they would move up to this area right here, and they're done. So now we move to this one, and he can also do a retreat, but this is a little trickier because he's going to have, well, I guess he actually wouldn't, at least not right away. So if he does the same thing, which he can, because again, he's an 8, he's a 6. Oh, he's javelin equipped. I didn't even realize that because these are Vanguard. Well, we're going to ignore that because I've already shown missile fire. So we're just doing shock here. So he's going to say, I'm going to skedaddle as well. I'm going to retreat and get out of here. And I have skedaddle in my head, I think, because I was looking at the Bring Out Your Men, Gentlemen, which is a game I'll be doing a playthrough of fairly soon. Anyway, now if he were to move, let's say if he were to move here, that's fine. As long as he continues to move away from this unit and does not enter this unit or any other enemy unit's zone of control. Now, the zone of control is the 2 hexes, just like in the basic or the full Great Battles of History. The front hexes of the unit is its zone of control area. So if he were to try and go here, which is legal, but he would be forced to stop there. So instead, he would maybe go. Now, we don't want to go in this direction either because his friend is down here, and also because we have enemy units over here as well. So let's just say he's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. And so he'll stop right there. Okay, and his 1 hit goes with him. So now that's 2 that haven't really had anything to do. Now he would be able to move up and maintain his facing, just as he had to maintain his facing throughout his retreat. Now he moved in that direction, so he's still going that way. Now we have this one, and this is where we'll see actual combat here. So you have sizes, and that's the number in the yellow box. So he's a 4, and his buddy below him is also a 4 because they're the same unit type. And then this guy here, this Roman unit here, this legionary, he is a 5. He's also javelin equipped, so he would have been able to use reaction fire. Again, I'm going to skip that because we've already shown it. And when I do a real playthrough, I'll play it the right way where everybody's going to be doing the correct thing. Just know that when he moves in here, he is now in range of these guys' javelins, so they would be able to throw their javelins at him in reaction fire. So we have an 8 to 5 size. If it's 2 times more than the defender or more, you would get a die roll modifier, a positive die roll modifier. It's not, so they don't get that. So now we have just as we had with the base game, you have basically your matrix to figure out your die roll modifiers, right? So here we have Legion on Legion, basically. So we have Legion on Legion. So our defender is LG, and our attacker is also LG. So there's no die roll modifier, no die roll modifier there for a frontal attack, Legion on Legion. Okay. Now, weapon systems, that's what this is, weapon systems. So it's kind of abstracted, but it looks at the equipment that a legionary unit would have as compared to, say, barbarian infantry, which would be a -3, right? Or skirmishers, which would be a -6, right? Because well, this is phalanx. Phalanx would be much more heavily armed by nature of its equipment and its formation. Like the legionaries would be a -3 here and here and 5, and that's how that works basically. And you have one down here for flank and rear attacks, and then you also have the keys, which will give you some information and some notes, and then your special modifiers. Double depth, you basically can, it's kind of like a stack of double units, so phalanx units basically in this game. And then you have both tables, Roman, LG, CO, and X or F armed units, +1 if the unit moved adjacent to the defender. The Romans aren't attacking here, so that would not apply. And then you also have this down here. So once you have that, then we're going to go to our shock results table that we kind of looked at briefly. So we're going to roll, and we have two units attacking one. So you would roll them together. So it's one die roll basically. And the way that has an impact is basically the size. So you have 8 to 5. In this case, it does not matter, but in some cases it may. Now, the other thing you have to look at as far as modifiers is troop quality. In this case, they're both 7s, 7 and 7. So we're basically going to have no DRM at all, as we already kind of saw. So I'm going to roll the dice. I know you can't see it. Or roll the die, I should say. And we rolled a 9, which is a poor roll. So if we look at the, actually, no, it's not a poor roll. I'm used to it being a kind of a poor roll when you roll that way. But as you can see here, 8 or 9, effect on attackers, no effect. So they don't get any hits at all. But the defender gets 2 hits and they have to DR route. So if we look down here, you can see it says DR route. And it says the player affected rolls the die for each unit or stack of units. If the die rolls greater than the unit's troop quality, the unit routes. For stacks, only the top unit routes, the bottom unit retreats. If the die roll is less than or equal to the TQ, the unit stack retreats. If no defending units are shock attack. Yeah, okay. Okay, yeah. So we're going to roll our die. His troop quality is a 7. We rolled a 7. So if it's equal to his troop quality, he has to retreat. So he would then retreat, and in this game, retreating, they only have to move 1 hex away. Now, you might say, well, these guys had to use half their movement allowance, and they did, but that was because they were retreating before combat. So he just has to retreat 1. Now, in this case, he's going to go in this direction, and he'll turn his. I think he has to keep his facing too. So he's gonna stop there and be adjacent to his commander. Well, his overall commander. Actually, that is his commander. Never mind. But he also gets 2 hits, so we have to put 2 hits on him. And as we saw, the attacker received no damage at all. I apologize for the focus issue there. But as you can see, we've got 2 here, and these guys are unaffected. And that's actually going to wrap this up. Now I'll show you, actually, we'll do one more thing. So over here we have Herennius, right? So you can see he's got, according to the rules, he has 2 seizure attempts that he may attempt. I didn't put the marker underneath him because I forgot. His initiative rating is a 5. So we're going to roll 1 die. And I'll put the tower in so you can actually see it, hopefully. And it's a 1. So that means he wins, and he gets to seize the initiative or seize the turn. Now, Here's the thing, okay? If you're the overall commander, so if you're Quintus Aulus here, or if you're any other overall commander, in this case that would be Pontius on the other side, they can activate themselves or anyone in their range. So in Pontius' case, he's slightly below. He's 1 hex below this guy. He's below Statius, so he could activate Statius if he wanted to, or his own unit. So basically any formation commander in his command range, which is a 5. Yeah, 5. And as for our buddy Herennius on the other side over here, he's also a formation commander. So if it's the formation commander, they have to activate their own men. So he's activating his own men, which are over here. So if we zoom out a little bit, you can see this is Herennius's men over here. So because that happened, the Romans get skipped, and now these guys can push in and attack on the other side. Okay, so some of these guys will be subject to flank attacks because they were not activated yet, so they were not able to adjust their facing or try to form any kind of defensive line or whatever. They can get slammed into on the flank, which of course is more vulnerable. So that's how your tactical stuff plays in here. Now in the full game, you have momentum where you can basically seize the initiative, same thing, kind of skip the order. But then the other guy can attempt to trump you and take it back. In this game, if you lose it, you lost it, and you basically have to wait until the other guy goes again, and then you can take your turn. So that's how that works. And of course, if he used one of them, whether he passed or not, he would go from a 2 to a 1, and then he'd have 1 attempt left for the balance of the game. And we didn't talk about the route points and stuff, but for this one, the route points for the Samnites are 60, and the route points for the Romans is 85. Just for point of reference, this is, again, the Battle of La Utile from the Barbarian module and is part of the SPQR Deluxe Edition. So I hope you found this interesting. I know it wasn't a true gameplay, but I wanted to kind of showcase some of the differences. There's more stuff, of course, but this covers a lot of it. The simple Great Battles of History is a very streamlined version of the full game. The full game has a lot of meat on its bones, and it can be a little daunting maybe to learn it, but I think it's worth learning it and playing it. And then if you like the simple version better, then play the simple version. If you can, I'm not even sure. I think it's still available from GMT to buy the simple Great Battles of History. So if you were wondering about that, and let me reframe my shot. All right, so here we have the simple Great Battles of History playbook, just to give you an example of what's in here. So you have your introduction, and then you have, starting with the Alexander Expanded Deluxe, you get all the scenarios from there. Now this won't include anything that was published, I think, in C3I before a certain date, or maybe it's after a certain date. It won't have some of the expansions and so on, but there are a lot of stuff in here, and it ranges. So these are the things that aren't included. So these are just special rules for scenarios that aren't in here. And also, like I mentioned, for Barbarian, which is mentioned right here, the Barbarian book. So if we look at Tifernum here, it's going to have simple Great Battle of History version right here. It'll tell you your commander and your formation. It'll have any special rules, because sometimes you will have the ability to activate more than one formation at a time, depending on the commander and the scenario. But this is a pretty thick, it's 51 pages and there's 55 battles in here, I guess. Battle site key map, and the map is pretty cool. You can see all the battles spread around across a pretty sizable chunk of the old world. Europe, the Mediterranean primarily, but even over here to the, the far east, not far east, but the eastern south, I guess that would be Southwest Asia area. And you've got all kinds of stuff in here. And you have, this is from Karaticus. So there's a bunch of stuff in here, just a bunch. So you get this, and you get the play aid, and of course you get the rule book. So this is what you get if you buy Simple Great Battles of History. Well worth it, in my opinion, if you want to play a a little bit more streamlined, quicker version of the game. If the full game, because some of those full game battles are enormous and take a long time to play. But so that is going to do it for this. I hope, as I said, I hope you got something out of it and enjoyed it. Please feel free to comment, ask questions, etc. I will do my best to answer. And yeah, that will do it. As always, please consider liking, sharing, and/or subscribing. That's always appreciated. But even if you don't, I hope you will come back and check out something else down the road. For now, I'm out. This is Joe. This is Hexed Encountered. And until next time, as always, happy gaming.